Joining tonight, the man on the front line in Congress pushing for full UFO disclosure, getting people chop-blocking him at every turn, including elected representatives from within his own party, GOP member of Congress Tim Burchett, and the independent journalist who broke the UFO cover-up story wide open when he interviewed whistleblower Dave Grush for NewsNation, Ross Coulthart. It's good to have you both. Thank you very much. First of all, Ross, does this square with your reckoning at this time, these most recent reports that, yes, government agencies, at least including the CIA, have specific programs and manpower to deal with things that are in the air that they can't identify, want collected and studied?
Absolutely, Chris. Firstly, good evening, and g'day, Tim. What I can tell you is the Office of Global Access is the office in the CIA that has been coordinating this. They have been doing crash retrievals for many years. One of the things that I do take issue with in the Daily Mail story today is that they say there's just 9 craft that have been recovered. My understanding is that there are considerably more. And as the article accurately reports, this is done in collaboration with JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, notably with special forces drawn primarily from the US Air Force. So yes, the article is accurate, and I've got it also confirmed independently by multiple senior intelligence sources.
Congressman Burchett, what'd they do? They cut off the heat down there because you're pushing for too many answers?
You Yankees keep it cold up there in Washington, brother. And I just want to say for the record, both y'all speak with funny accents, but I've got a teleprompter underneath me that translates what y'all are saying. So we're good. But hey,
Ross's accent makes him sound more sophisticated. My voice sounds like I'm here to kill you. But listen, Congressman, let me ask you, what do you make first of the resistance to transparency within your own party, the other party? What do you make of it?
That's the uniparty, Chris. You know that. You close the door. Your dad and my dad were old school politicians, and at the end of the day, they'd go out and have dinner together and share, some common views. Today, it's you close the door. The only thing these people see is green, and that's what this is all about. It's about money. It's about power. It's about control, and the public's had enough of it. Thanks to good reporting by y'all, and I think we're going to get to the bottom of something here. The CIA issue is huge, and the fact that I too have had some conversations and verified some of this stuff is that it's true. So, of course, I haven't seen it. I don't have to see it, but I think the American public deserves to see what the hell's going on with this stuff, because until we get to the bottom of this, this thing is so big that it travels over into every agency that we have in Washington. Because you've noticed when y'all started reporting this, and polling data was showing that 55% or more of the American public believe that there was something else out there. Now you're seeing departments like NASA. Everybody at the Pentagon is wanting to get on the gravy train. They're saying, hey, we need to study this. We need a robust budget to study this stuff. Hell, they don't need to study it. They've got it. They just need to turn it over to us, and that's the problem.
Now, Congressman, you also believe that there is a serious risk involved here. How so?
Well, I mean, what do you mean in a risk? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. What type of risk are you talking about, Chris?
In terms of what it means for transparency and responsibility to the American people, or at least their elected representatives from government.
Yeah, well, I think it means that they're turning over some power to us, and they don't want to do that. And also, it could put some people out of business. It'd put the Pentagon out of business for a lot of the stuff they do. If we could get these energy sources to the to the world, I mean, just imagine the people up in New York right now that are freezing to death could have an energy source that's cheap and free, and heat in the winter and cool in the summer. We wouldn't be fighting all these worthless wars over in the Middle East. That's the threat, and it's a threat to a lot of these big boys' pocketbooks. That's the other threat, and they sure as hell don't want to turn off that money spigot, which is what they're, And two, I want to say this. I didn't want to get off track, but the Pentagon was just audited, I believe, for the 6th or 7th time. They failed again. 50% of their assets are unaccounted for. And how did this U.S. Congress, overwhelmingly Democrat and Republican, how did they punish them? They gave them billions more dollars this year so they can do this kind of thing and hide this kind of information. So eventually we're going to have enough people up here in Congress, I'd hope, that would push that button, but we don't currently have that.
Well, listen, I appreciate the concern. And look, it's a tricky subject. You and I have talked about this before. And Ross, you've been covering this for years. You know, it's not popular to go against America's defense. And so they keep giving money to the Pentagon. People don't know what an outside proportion of our budget is, but everybody's afraid that, God forbid, something happens and they say it was about funding. They don't want it on their hands. Now, Ross, you have an interesting phrase here, a catastrophic disclosure. What does that mean and what might it look like?
Okay, so what Tim's referring to is that there's been quite laudable legislation that Tim's backed, Senator Marco Rubio's backed on the Republican side, and on the Democrat side, you've got Senator Kirsten Gillibrand pushing it as well. And so there's been a bipartisan push for what's called the UAP Disclosure Act. And unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks, it's become clear that there are key Republicans who are now facing objection. They're basically putting objection up to that legislation, and they're trying to block what would be called eminent domain. And I think, as Tim's pointed out repeatedly, if there's nothing to this UAP story, if we really don't have flying saucers hidden in a basement somewhere, why are so many people in the Congress now fighting to stop legislation that would give the American public the answers they seek about what the truth is, about what the government knows about this UAP issue? Because that's what's happening. There's a gag being imposed on legislation that would essentially assert eminent domain. It would confiscate NHI, non-human intelligence technology. And the point that I'm making is the American government really does need to think very long and hard about the implications of what they're doing here, because quite laudably, there are people in Congress who've recognised there is a need for a slow and gradual disclosure for the American public to be prepared for a new reality, that yes, we are not alone, and that yes, we are in possession of non-human technology. In my view, knowing the sources that I have, that to me is incontrovertible. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that that's true. Now, the big issue is,
and look, and here's the beautiful part.
There's a risk of catastrophic disclosure.
Go ahead.
Because if they don't move quickly enough to reveal to the American public what they know, if they don't stop this nonsense in Congress of trying to stop people like Tim from helping disclose what's really going on, they're going to find themselves having a national security disaster blowing up in their face, because they won't be able to control the narrative. And then there will be a risk of things being disclosed that might jeopardize national security, and none of us want that. What we want is for America to retain control of good technology.
And Congressman, I'll give you the last word on this, but this should be a no-brainer. If there's one thing people in Washington, D.C. like to do, it's to tell you that you're wrong. And if there was nothing what Ross is saying, nothing to any of the reporting, nothing to Grush, they would come out and say, this is totally wrong. You come on in, we'll show you what we've seen, what we haven't seen. I don't know where these guys are coming from. This is all tinfoil hat stuff. They haven't. So how can we help you get answers, Congressman?
If we're not wrong, then obviously we're right. This is what they're doing. They tried to destroy Grush. He's a combat veteran. I know that means something in your neck of the woods, and it means a whole heck of a lot down in East Tennessee, where I'm from. You know, and they're coming after me. I got home this past weekend. They've been doing polling on me and asking if the UFO issue was going to be a problem, and I doubt it's going to show anything, because people don't trust the government for good reason. I would tell people to get on the dadgum phones and start calling their elected officials. Don't be a jerk about it. Just say, hey, we want total disclosure on this. Quit hiding this stuff. If they don't have anything to hide, then why you keep giving them money to hide it? And if they don't do it, you vote their butts out, either party, because this is getting ridiculous. The American public is sick of it. And we're taxpayers. We owe it to our people to give them this information.
I can tell you one thing, almost 30 years in now, I've never seen something that supposedly matters less get classified more than this stuff does. I mean, nobody can ever talk to you about it because it's all classified, but they always say to you with a nudge and a wink, yeah, it's really nothing. Why is it all classified? Congressman Burchett, I appreciate you. Good luck going forward with this. And Ross, as always, appreciate your perspective and your reporting. To be continued.
Chris, Ross, y'all are the man.
Let's
Thank y'all for what you're doing for us.
Always. Hey, thank you for doing your job.